Welcome back to Primary Target. I'm your host, Who the Fuck. This is episode 11, not episode 12. Sorry about last episode. I got the numbers mixed up in my head. And bad FC what do. Anyways, this episode, welcome our special guest, Tom O'Neill. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And also my very good friend and co-host, Vargren.
Hello.
Oh, God. Anyways, this episode, we're going to be talking about Tom's background in EVE Online, where he came from, where he is now, some stories he might have from his time in EVE. We'll also be talking about the new structure changes, metaliminal storms in nullsec, maybe touch on the 5v5 Corvettes, and also the security update that came out in late July. So let's dive into it. Tom, tell us a bit about yourself. Where'd you come from? Where are you now? Who are you? Who is Tom O'Neill?
Well, that's a good question. Very, very philosophical. No, I've been playing this game, I say on and off, but for a large period starting in 2012, kind of December time, not 2012, 2011. And since then, I've been through Provi, Lowsec, dabbled in wormholes briefly, back to Provi, and then started an alliance and took space in Scalding Cats.
Oh God, that was too fast. That was way too fast. Slow that down. Slow that down. Right.
Oh, well, where should I start then?
People need the
Start at
story,
the beginning.
man.
Yeah, start at the beginning.
I don't want the cliff notes. I want the class, Tom.
Oh, you're getting the cliff notes, and then you can dive in for me. No, so I started, like I say, in 2011.
Why? Why would you
doing
do that?
Why? I like spaceships. I mean, who doesn't? You know.
Yeah, pretty much. I
Pretty
think that's
cool
the reason for most
spaceships.
people, isn't it?
So uni student, I didn't have much else better to do really. I could have studied, but like, let's be honest.
Who does that?
I know, right? So I did that, and I remember being in and I do distinctly remember this, and it's really weird that I do. I remember being in the noob system in, I think, Cowster, however we call it.
Yeah.
As a guy and say newbie, and being messaged by a random person. That person was called Johnny Frecco, who I still speak to today, and said, "Hey, do you want to join my corp?" And I went, "What's a corp? Are you scamming me? I'm really confused."
I like that instant paranoia.
It was instant paranoia. There was no trust at all. I'd heard the stories. I knew what would
That's
happen.
perfect. Yeah, you're playing the right game.
But eventually he convinced me, joined his corp, and we started moving around HiSec. I think we started doing a few mission running systems and things like that, and I started taking part as sort of more of a director role in the corp. So I started being more active and helping out with recruiting and all the things you'd expect from a director in a HiSec corp, you know. Making sure new players knew what they were doing, you know, blind leading the blind, obviously. And doing that sort of stuff. Eventually, we got picked up as a very kind of up-and-coming corp because we were recruiting so much. We had so many new members. A very old alliance now that I don't think. I think they kind of died recently, so I don't know how many people will know about them. But the Volition Cult out of Provi contacted Johnny.
I remember that name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Volition Cult, yeah.
They obviously they contacted us, and we decided to move to Provi. You know, nullsec. Why not? Let's make some ISK. Let's have some fun and let's start fighting. So we eventually just started moving over there.
So how did you fit in with that the NRDS culture of Provi? Was that kind of like part of the appeal, or was that all like news to you?
It was all new to us, right? Like it was, you know, bear in mind we'd all been in HiSec before. We didn't really have any kind of. We had a few vets, as you'd call it, like people who were kind of familiar with nullsec and familiar with the ways things go out. You know, they kind of, as Provi called it, MBSI, which is what other people call nullsec.
Yeah.
But NRDS was just another thing that was nullsec to us. It was normal.
Just to clarify, NRDS is not red, don't shoot, which was essentially Providence's policy towards every, like, you know, it's like they assume that you're a good guy until you prove that you're not.
Same with NBSI, it means not blue, shoot it.
Shoot it, yeah.
Bingo, yeah. So NBSI was practiced by some of the Provi alliances outside of Provi. So if you were in Lowsec or whatever, you could do NBSI. That tended to be frowned upon by CVA. They were very much NRDS wherever you go. in practice, lovely. In theory, lovely. In practice, not so much. So
Yeah.
Volt, who Volish and Colt, I'll refer to them as Volt, were very much a kind of, yeah, Provi's cool. We'll do NRDS in Provi, but outside it's free game. So we would go to catch regularly. And we'd shoot at who was it in catch at the time? I
I
can't
don't
remember
think it was
now.
Brave then, was it? I think it was
No.
No, I think it was
pre-Brave.
it was pre-Brave. I think it was Test. I'm kind of curious to find out now, but it's about 2012 now. We'd go in there, we'd poke our heads in head GP and just PvP as normal. And it was great fun, good way of learning. We had the FCs at the time. You had Core Blood Brothers and the like. Some people who are in Provi will know who that is. Others will not. It's kind of one of those. Oh, that was it. AAA against all authorities.
That's it. Yeah, I
And
was
who
just
was
looking.
there?
Yeah, it was
And the
PL.
initiative as well.
PL had it in January of 12, and then AAA took it, and then Test took it.
Yep,
in
that makes sense.
12.
AAA makes sense. Yeah, no, that was pretty much, that was kind of the days in Provi. I started taking up roles in the Alliance as a Diplo, eventually becoming one of the head Diplos in Vault. And not being CVA, thankfully just being Vault, it pretty much boiled down to, yeah, we'll blue you, no, we won't blue you, that sort of thing. And working with the other Diplos in the coalition to work out any faults that may have occurred, and drama was more common than not.
So how much of a unified block was like, because from the outside you kind of like, I'm used to referring to it as Provi block, like it's one alliance or something. But like from an insider's point of view, how intermeshed were all of these guys? Like, did you kind of know everyone who lived in Provi, or was it kind of just the vague acquaintance?
You knew the alliances, and you were all blue to them as you'd expect. Oddly, though, we tended to run our own intel channels, which became a bit of a problem. So depending on which pipe you were in, you had a different intel channel, or at least Volt did. Volt were kind of the black sheep, I believe, of Provi, which did cause some issues.
Yeah, that is problematic from your point of view as the nullsec entity, but it's great from my point of view as the guy who wants to kill them all. Like, yes, please have separate intel channels. Please, no one know that I'm coming. This is great.
Yeah, no, it was genuinely that. It was you that, or you'd have to post in two, and it was a bit strange. We'd often get told off for shooting people when we shouldn't, and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I mean, as the head Diplo, I'm sure you were very capable of dealing with those kind of problems.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to. Yeah, yeah.
I just shoot the people because
To be fair, I was kind of one of the people encouraging it, but
yeah, I forgot about the part where you were head Diplo.
Kind of Diplo, yeah.
I didn't really care too much, to be honest with you. I kind of just told CVA that this is how we operate. Really, we're MBSI and just deal with it. But yeah, that was the majority of our time in Provi. It was fairly uneventful. I think the most eventful thing was of sound mind while we were there. I think the nicest way of putting it was left aggressively.
Sound left Provi block?
Yes. Sound was in Provi block.
And was this must have been pre-wormhole sound mine, right?
Yes, yeah, so this was nullsec sound mine. So they were in Provi. I don't remember when. I think this was 2012, 2013.
Okay.
And I can't remember the exact reason why they left. All I remember is the numerous emails going, call to arms. We need to go kick sound out. And it's like, well, why? And obviously fights ensued. AAA came along, everyone came along, and it was just these big fights. And as a new pilot who didn't really understand, I was still a new pilot. I'd been there for a year and a half or so, and it was still very much new to me. So
it is one of the weird things. We were literally just talking about it before the podcast starts, but it's EVE's one of the few games where you can say I've been playing for a year and a half and I'm a noob.
Yeah,
which is kind of ridiculous. But yeah,
learning curve is steep
so anyway,
and tall.
Yeah, so you're in Provi. You're enjoying like a little bit of war and some fighting. What's next?
It's leaving, funnily enough. Actually, no, that's a lie. Before we left, we built an outpost. Now, so for those who aren't familiar, before we had citadels in nullsec, we had outposts. Now, outposts were essentially stations. They are the faction fortizars they are actually exactly what the faction Fortizars were, just in a different guise. And we decided to put one down. We decided to put one in a system and own it,
This is
and it
something
took
that
us quite a while to do.
this is something that even I'm not familiar with. I thought faction Fortizars were all NPC stations that already existed that you had to fight
Nope.
over. But you could build them.
So they were no, they were always built.
Oh, I
So
see.
faction
Okay.
Fortizars
Oh,
have
okay.
always been ones that you've built. They were outposts. So the process was mine for God knows how long, do your sort of 100% tax ratting and that sort of thing, where the corp would get all the ISK, and essentially work your way towards it. And then from there, you'd build an egg. And this egg is by far the most valuable and most stressful thing you can possibly ever have. Because they're about 20 bill, and
Ooh.
unlike a Fortizar or a Citadel, when you put them up now, where you've got this 24-hour anchoring time, they would only go to like an outpost state. They'd only hatch essentially after downtime. So you had to put one down, anchor it, fill it up with all the modules, and bear in mind you could only anchor it in a freighter because they were the only things big enough to carry it. So you
Oh,
had to have a
right.
freighter in nullsec, anchor it, and not only that, then you also had to put in all the materials it required to hatch. So not
Oh,
only
good
did you have to
lord.
anchor it, you then had to feed it essentially, and then wait and hope that you did it right, and then at downtime it become a station.
Hmm.
Needless to say, it was stressful. I then did it three
Yeah,
more
good
times.
lord. Good lord, that just sounds like it's so much work and so much effort and time and ISK invested in that. And even I remember stories of seeing them go wrong and seeing freighters with these things inside getting like you just see the kill mail linked. So it's like, oh god.
Not anywhere near as simple as the Citadels are now to deal with. So yeah,
Yeah.
I did that the once, and then decided, oh, I'll do it a few more times because why not? Uh, but yeah, we did that, and that was our kind of crowning achievement in Provi. It was getting our Citadel up, our
I
Citadel,
mean,
our outpost.
it is still a hell of an achievement. Like, because by today's standards, nothing even comes close. Like, you talk about keep stars and sotios and these kind of things, and it's like it's not on the same scale of investment. And it's compounded by the fact of doing it in like kind of the early 2010s means that the resources are a lot harder to get. It's kind of pre all the Rourke changes and all the kind of massive industrialization of the game.
It took a lot longer to do, and it's funny because
Yeah.
you look at the system that it was in Provi, and you can still see the fact that there was a station there that we put. It doesn't say that we put it down, but it says that there was a station there, and that was the one we put down. So it's a nice thing to see if you look on
Yeah.
Dotland.
Oh, like a
Your mark in history.
Yeah, yeah. So
nice.
if you click on Dotland and do D61A TAC G in Provi, you can see the Caldari Research Outpost, and that was our outpost of choice.
Good stuff. All right, so you've got your structure down. Then what? Then you left.
Essentially, yeah, we kind of got bored. Johnny left at this point. He'd kind of not become disillusioned, but had other priorities in life, as you always do. So I primarily took over at this point, um, as CEO of the corp, and decided that actually we'd kind of outgrown Provi and wanted to try something different. So we left. We went to Galente Space, a place called Austingale. Can't remember the name
Yeah, I
exactly.
know.
And then went to a low sec system with a group called the Harlequins, called Uli, and stayed
All
there
right.
for about a year
With
while we were
what were you guys doing? Just low
just
sec
PvP.
piratey,
Yeah,
PvP. Yeah.
piracy type stuff. Yeah, it wasn't really anything specific. We found out very quickly it wasn't really for us, but it was good fun while we were there. I think we were only there for about 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I know that feeling.
it's low sec PvP is great, but you need to be able to be self-sufficient outside of low sec for it to be any sort of. I
Right.
imagine we're gonna have loads of low seckers kind of comment going, no, you don't need to do this. You just level 5s or something like that. But realistically, you need to be self-sufficient outside of low sec
But
to
even
make it
saying like
Yeah.
you can just do level fives, it still means you have to be self-sufficient outside of just doing like living in low sec. Like
yeah,
that's
right. So it was difficult for us. While we were there, the Alliance executor decided to steal all our moons, and I don't remember where they went afterwards. But they stole all our moons and went to a different alliance, and they left us with nothing. It
when you
was
say
fun.
stole your moons, you mean
So
like transferred
they
all this.
all the posses, they took them down briefly, had someone else anchor them, so they essentially had all the moons
I
taken.
see. This was back when it
It's
was
the
passive
new-
moon mining,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
This
back
is
when
the
moon mining was
run by a POS module, essentially.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, that must have
that
been
was fun.
Was
Yeah,
this?
nice bit of corporate espionage.
I feel like I know a story similar to this from a friend about them being on the stealing side, and I think that they were in PFR. And I feel like you told me once that you flew with PFR. Was this the PFR story?
No, so it's not PFR. I did fly
Okay.
with PFR, but it was a bit later on, so there's quite a bit more to the story apparently.
All right. Yeah. So I thought
So
that was PFR stealing your moons there. I was like, that's funny.
yeah.
Right.
So so from there the alliance that I was in disbanded. I took my corp and we put them. We've got all the corps that were in at the time. Oh, I've missed a story part, but it wasn't really relevant, so I'm not going to bother. And then we kind of went back to Vault. We kind of said, oh, this isn't working for us. Let's go back to what we know. And stayed there for a bit. Which, oh no, I'm reading it the wrong way around. No, I'm looking at Alliance at Corp history for my, and I'm reading it the wrong way around. So ignore me. After that, we made an alliance called Extended Downtime. It was only lasted for about 2 months. Our goal was to try and do wormholes.
Can you imagine extended downtime lasting for
Lasted
2
for
months?
2 months. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Oh,
That's why we called
it just
that,
writes
'cause
its
it's
own
funny.
joke, doesn't it?
I know, right? But yeah, no, we made that. We tried doing wormholes, promptly failed, got bored, and I think actually thought we were. Oh god, that's really bad. Actually,
I'm
I think in
curious
that
to know.
space of time,
I'm
we
curious to
lost
know
our
why you
blue
think you
status in
failed.
Vault.
I'm curious to know why you think you failed in wormholes.
So obviously now with the benefit of hindsight, right? We didn't put as much thought into the scanning side of it, and also the taxation, not taxation, but the
Income.
difficulties of living out of a POS.
Yeah, I was going to say the pre-Citadel wormhole life was a lot tougher.
POS living, like we're going to come on to it later, I think, but the changes Citadels have made for wormhole space is it's not, you can't understate, it cannot be stated enough how much better it has made it.
Yeah, God, for sure. Well, if anyone's lived out of a POS for a little while, you appreciate how unbelievably awkward everything is, having to do it through that nightmarish interface and all the different modules, and never really being able to kind of do anything properly. So yeah, God, it has made such a huge difference. I would say, was it Citadel? The introduction of Citadels and the introduction of the shared bookmark folder has made wormhole life so much more accessible than it ever used to be.
Pretty much that, really. It was that, and then a mix of just not really having the skilled enough pilots. I think our pilots were a little bit underskilled for what we were trying to do. And eventually, it was just we kind of realised actually isn't working for us. What I was gonna say, and this is my how I lost blue status with Provi story.
Go on.
So at some
Marvellous.
point during this, we kind of went, okay, we want to go back to Provi and shoot them. They still have us blue, but we don't have them blue.
I see a diplomatic incident on the horizon.
Yes, and there was one, but I decided I orchestrated it all. So we promptly went to Provi in a T3 fleet, and shot people who thought we were blue to them. That went down really well.
Yeah.
Admittedly, though, it was
the
a very
intention
quick reset.
was the intention
Yeah.
just to go there and shoot them, or was the intention to go there and shoot them and then like join them again?
Not initially, no.
Oh.
The intention was just to shoot them. Funnily enough, after our alliance extended downtime failed, yeah, we went back to Provi. Like a little bitch.
Awkward.
I know, right? But while I was there, I actually, that's a lie. I finished that. I closed the corp. I joined the Volition Cult main corp, and decided that I would rather do that than lead a corporation. About a month in, I went, actually, no, I'll just make my corp again, and brought the corp back into the Volition Cult. I've closed the
Okay.
corp down about 3 times now.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? It's a problem.
Huh.
And yeah, so that was, God, it's been a weird story. That's weird. And then in Vault, we kind of just rebuilt the corp and decided that actually, again, Vault isn't really for us, and we would go to Scalding Pass and make a name for ourselves.
Scalding
And that's
Pass.
what
And
we
how
did.
did that go?
Yeah, how do you make a name for yourself in Scalding Pass, Tom?
So,
I'm curious about how
whoa,
anyone makes a
hold
name
on.
for themselves in Scalding Pass.
Bear in mind, at the time, this is literally as we were deciding this, the SOV changes came in. So this the Entosis links and the the
Okay.
move
Okay,
away from
all right.
bashing, the move away from this kind of perpetual kind of you got to shoot everything and hope for the best. Don't get me wrong, Entosis links aren't much better; they're still cancer, but this is a different kind of cancer.
Yeah, you've answered the question I was going to ask there as to whether you think that the new system is better than the old one. And I guess it's like, yeah, but it's not perfect.
Yes, pretty much. I think there are lots of things they could do to improve it, but with all these things, they require numbers. Like that you're never going to get past the problem of more numbers makes it easier.
Yeah.
That just isn't going to happen. So we went to Scalding Pass. I took my corp and we brought a few others with us. We brought our capitals, we brought our PvP ships, and we staged out of what was it? We staged out a curse. And
Okay.
yeah, we staged out a curse and started taking a small little pocket in Scalding Pass that belonged to some Russians. That was a bad idea.
Oh.
So
did you wake the sleeping bear?
we pissed it off a little bit, yeah. So we took some space that was owned by a group called Space Alligators. Little did we know that was an alt corp of Bright Side of Death.
Oh.
Ah.
Yeah, exactly right. So we started bashing. We started doing because you still had to do some shooting. So there was still some involvement there, shooting posses and stuff like that. We did that in our caps, and I remember the first few times we used caps, it was fine, and then one night it was not fine. It stopped being fine. It started becoming essentially one of our capitals, an Archon. At the time, Archons weren't just carriers; they were essentially faxes as well.
Triage,
So
right?
people
Yeah.
don't remember that. Yeah, triage carriers.
Indeed, yeah.
My favorite carriers. I'm still disappointed they're gone, but we digress.
Hooks and Kings, man.
One of ours. Oh man, yeah, they were great. But essentially, one of our carriers got caught, and we decided to help. We should not have helped. We should have let it die, because we lost about 6 or 7 bill that night, and then tried to scream at Gorgon Empire like, "There's capitals to kill. Come here and help us." They came as our capitals died, and they tried killing other capitals, but weren't successful.
Oh no.
But eventually, we did take the space, so we did get this entire pipe of space, and we loved it. It was brilliant. We managed to do quite a lot there. Built our own outpost again. There's a story about that, and I will tell you that story because that's also hilarious.
Yeah, go on.
But I'll finish off with the taking the space. Once we took the space, we spoke to Bright Side of Death and said, "Look, we get like a friendly blue non-aggression pact type thing with you guys because we don't want to be enemies because it's not going to be beneficial." And we did for a time, but some of the members weren't very keen on that arrangement and still shot our members. So eventually we just sent, no blue, and then that was about 8 months in, and they just came and steamrolled the space back.
Ah.
That was good fun. At this point, I stopped playing. I kind of went, "Nah, fuck this."
As a result of that?
Pretty much, yeah. I kind of became disillusioned with it. It's very easy to go like, oh, he built a sandcastle, it got destroyed, deal with it. But actually, at the time, I put a lot of effort into it, and to see it go away so easily.
People put a lot of.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
It's rough, man. Yeah.
But it is what it is, and it was good fun while it lasted. Now, the outpost story. We don't come off very well in this story, just appearance-wise. We had a group called oh god, I can't remember their names now, but essentially we had a small group of industrialists come join us because we needed industrialists to build ships, and we thought, oh, why not? They'll do PvP as well. One of the guys there was very rich. I think his name was Thaddeus. Very well off in terms of ISK and just resources. And we said, oh, we're building an outpost. We're taking donations and stuff like that. He essentially donated about 90% of the ISK to build this outpost. So we built it. We kind of gave him, the ability to name the station because we thought, well, he's put most of the money in. We'll give him a month worth of naming rights or something like that, just as a sort of
fair
price.
enough.
He named it, and we kind of went from there. Now the problem was in the alliance, people saw it as us kind of him paying his way up to director roles, him paying his way up to kind of high command. Now, we didn't want that. That wasn't the impression we wanted to give. So we slowly kind of distanced ourselves from that. We tried to remove him, not remove him, but kind of remove his responsibilities a little bit. And eventually he started slagging off myself and the rest of High Command to our allies. And
for us
no.
non-Brits, what is that? That's
slagging
that
off.
phrase.
What's the word? That's like a word that I just kind of understand. Like
Talking shit about.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, chatting shit, right? He was
Chatting shit. There you go.
Okay.
So we kicked him out and it was probably about a month after the outpost had been built. We kicked him out, and he was like, "Oh, can I have my money back?" And we went, "No." So he then hired mercenaries to come kill us. He mustn't have paid them very much because they weren't very good.
I love this. I love this.
Were these
This is such a
mercenaries?
great little story.
Were they by chance noir mercenaries?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
I think it was more. No, I don't remember who it was. Scalding Pass was brilliant because there were so many different groups in Scalding Pass. Some people who collapsed. We had like about 3 or 4 different alliances collapse while I was there. Technically ours as well, so that's 5. Obviously, you had the Phoebe Freeport Republic who were there at the time.
Well, indeed.
Lovely people, great to play with. You know, they were really nice people. And I spoke to their Diplos quite a lot. One of my favourite incidents, though, and this, you know, I've talked about us basically getting an outpost for free, our losing of space, but my favourite instance, and this will always be my favourite instance, is this guy. I can't remember his name now, but I've still got the email somewhere. He joined. He came and brought his alliance with him to Scalding Pass, and essentially tried to strong arm us into joining his alliance and giving us his space without any sort of conflict. He just went, "Give us your space, or die." And I'm not exaggerating when I say it was very bold. I'm not exaggerating when I say every other member of the space pissed themselves laughing because they'd managed to take, I think, a few systems from an alliance that had recently collapsed. They'd literally just put a territorial claim unit up in an iHub and gone, "Yep, that's our space now. You should join us as well because we're such an amazing spacefaring, you know, soft-holding alliance." It was interesting. I mean,
it's confident. It's confident.
It is confident.
Yeah,
oh my god, it is confident. At the same time, I had a friendly alliance come up and live with us, and they wanted to take space as well, so we were assisting them with that. And these guys were desperately trying to get into the non-invasion pact that we had in Scalding Pass amongst its members. We weren't blue, but we just said, "Look, we'll PvP with you, but we don't really have any interest in your space."
Yeah.
Which was great. It was very beneficial to everyone involved.
Well, it should be. Yeah.
Did it stagnate the region? Possibly, but not really my concern. But this guy was trying to join, and I think we were setting it up, and he was like, "Oh, can I join as well?" And I think certain members of the NIP had more power than others. And I'd basically spoken to some of the other alliances and said, "Look, don't allow these people in here because of, you know, how he was when he came up here."
Yeah.
You know, he was a
Poor
dick.
diplomatic relations.
I basically said, "Mate, you made no friends when you came up here. Piss off. You're not getting in the NIP." And he started complaining. "Oh, your Blue Alliance is shooting our space. Can you tell them to stop? We're in the NIP." And I said, "No, you're not in the NIP. I've told you this several times. You're not in the NIP. You're not allowed to be in it." It's like, and he said, "Oh, you know, this has nothing to do with friends." It's like, yes, it does. You know, we have all the power. Being friendly with people is how you become, you know, how you get in the NIP, how you gain access to these things. If you can't be proven to be kind of reasonable, then there's no point adding you in. And you chose that path when you came down. And I said, realistically,
Path-based diplomacy works.
Right, yeah. And I said, realistically, I'd much rather have my friendly alliance have that space than you do. So tough shit. And they eventually left. But it was the confidence. I'd never seen that sort of confidence before in my life. And when I'm done, I'll find the emails. But it was.
Yeah,
I
feel like we should try that. Let's just find some small corp or some small alliance that's holding softs somewhere. Just send them a very strong email.
Yeah, exactly.
Demanding all their space.
Well, Lumio.
Yeah. Well,
Lumio,
come on, Lumio is a hero and a one-man killing machine. So
Yes,
let's
he
not,
is.
you know. It's when Lumio says he's going to do something,
God.
you better fucking believe he's going to do it.
Buddy,
So,
we got to get
you know,
Lumio on the podcast. We got to get Lumio on the podcast.
That is true.
That's a.
But anyway, that's a huge diversion.
Sorry.
So yeah. So where are we? We're Scalding Pass.
That
And
was it
what?
really. Like after Bright Side of Death, I kind of I was in try for a little bit, but not long, and then kind of just gave up. Didn't really have any interest in the game. I stopped playing for about 4 or 5 years, and then came back and joined Wormhole Space, joined a Wormhole Alliance, and that's where I am now.
So,
All right.
being that you probably have friends who stayed in Provi and probably stayed in contact with them, tell me what happened recently with Provi Block. I only saw like some vague Reddit posts, and given that there seems to
It's tough to
always
understand for as an outsider.
sometimes like once a month I would say there's always some sort of drama that goes on with CVA or Provi Block, and you never know whether or not to take it seriously. But this time it seemed like it was more serious than normal, and I don't know exactly what happened because I didn't take it seriously when I saw the drama on Reddit. So do you know what happened?
I think we know what happened, yeah. So I don't think it's as serious as you think it is. Like it wasn't as this kind of like, this group disbanded because of a spy, which is what one group did. Um, and as a result, the entire Providence Provi block collapsed. Like that wasn't what happened. This group did disband, but from what I understand, CVA and their allies were looking to leave Provi block up for a while. They've been embroiled in this constant war that I think had tired out the high command of CVA. Bear in mind that the high command of CVA, as far as I'm aware, is still the same high command back from when I was playing. So they've been playing for this for ages. So you got Severance and other kind of alliances kind of leaving at the same time. I know there
Yeah, I
are
think
some.
Severance went to Legacy. I think
No, I think
I'm remembering
CVA
that right.
did, or they went PanFam. I don't really
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
My nullsec politics is a little bit behind, but essentially they went to another block, another
Yeah.
coalition. I know there are some. I think not Severance. It's what's the other one? Shit.
Don't worry about it. Anyway.
One of the other alliances actually wants to take
Yeah.
Provi back. I'm not sure that's ever going to happen, but it's an interesting situation for Provi because they've kind of held that space since before I started playing. I think 2008 2009 they had it, if not before then.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, I think Providence, for as long as I can remember, like even kind of before I started playing in 2009, Provi Block and Providence was always this little unique microcosm of Eve, this like bizarre social experiment as to whether you could make it work and try being outwardly friendly at first contact. Which is good. Like it's almost like the Star Trek version of Eve, where
Yeah,
it's like
it is.
friendly until proven otherwise, essentially. Which
It's a lovely idea, really. I mean, I
it
I I,
is.
I from a kind of more kind of casual point of view, I think NRDS is a lovely idea.
Truly treating
Um,
neutrals as neutral instead of
yeah.
neutrals being
Yeah.
hostile.
I think the downside to it came quite quickly when you realise that, you know, obviously I'm in wormhole space, so you don't have local, but in traditional nullsec, you look in local. If they're not blue, you've got a problem. You need to shoot them.
Yeah.
Whereas because you ran out of contact space a lot of the time, you had to copy the entire local window into a separate tool and check if they were, kill on sight or not.
Yeah. It's just
That
the
is
practicality of it. It's like
that is
the idea of it is great. But the mechanics of how you get it to work inside EVE Online is just must be like horrifically infuriating at times. I can only imagine. Because I remember like I can remember in kind of my early days of the game, me and like a friend Gim who was on the podcast a few episodes ago, we kind of would go to Provi and shoot at people and run away, and we were kind of amazed at the fact that we were able to kind of fly all the way in there and nobody shot at us. And then the next time we went back and they shot at us, and we were like, oh, fair enough. And then we worked out that we could look ourselves up on their little, check to see if you're red tool, which was which was always fun to find out if you're a marked man. I felt a little bit special after that. I was like, ooh, look, I'm on a list. But
I
yeah,
remember
it's
Goons had something similar to that where you could it was Eve Skunk when it used to work. Eve Skunk used to be a thing where you could look up and see if someone had you added as a negative contact. When we were
oh
FCs in
God.
Brave, we could look up and see if we were added as a negative contact towards Goons, and you would
What's really fun
know.
about that is there's a little when you add a contact, there's a little checkbox which asks you if you want to notify the person that you're adding as a contact.
Right.
So when I was an FC for Legacy, I would frequently have these people pop up saying like, "Has added you as a contact with negative standing." It's
I
just
remember.
like,
I remember when Redline did
okay,
that.
cool.
Redline did that to me
Yeah,
one time, and I was like, "Oh, Redline wants to be my friend." Nope. Mm-mm. No.
that's
Next fleet got
just wants to
headshot.
know
I was like, "Oh,
who to call
Redline.
primary. Yeah.
Redline does not want to be my friend."
Yes,
You could add people as contacts and see if they're online at any point in time, right?
Yeah.
Now you've got to make
indeed.
sure everyone's got each other on. Both got the same kind of settings enabled. It was great for Intel, but I can see why they changed it.
In
I
fact,
was going to say,
until
I can remember a time having a whole bunch of people on my contacts list who were just guys that were known to have Titans. And if you saw that
Yeah.
guy log on, you were like, right, there's a bridge coming. There's a bridge
Yeah.
coming. We got to get ready.
until I
The Titan
biomassed
list and stuff like that.
my character and then had it reinstated, I had the very first person who ever helped me in this game added as a contact, and every time they would come online, even when we were in different alliances that were opposing each other, I would always say hello, and I had them added as blue, which only proved problematic one time, I think, but not super problematic. So
That's crazy. I think I've only set 2 people in the entire game blue so far.
is one of them Lumio?
No, good lord, no. Are you
Is
kidding
one of
me?
them me?
I think me and Lumia have killed each other hundreds of times. He's a legend.
Is one of them me?
No, it's not you either. I'm afraid. No, it turns out the cutoff
you.
point for getting blue for me is roughly a 10-year relationship in EVE Online.
Oh, Gim. Okay.
So
That makes
you
sense.
can talk to me in like 7 years.
Alex and Gim. Got it.
Yeah, Alex and Gim. But anyway,
So let's move. I feel like we've got a good bit of your story, Tom. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Because I really enjoyed listening to it.
I'm trying to think of any sort of stories I've got, but it's amazing that you when you play the game, you pick up all these little events and things. But it's been so long now that they've all sort of merged into one, and
I
unless
totally get that.
Yeah.
it's this kind of like you kind of look back and go, Eve is all the same, but it's not. There are so many little stories inside, right?
I'll
Yeah,
segue.
I mean, this is the thing. The gameplay itself, I mean, while Eve is massive as a video game, and it does tend to kind of, it just you can't learn everything is one of the things about Eve. So you learn the things that you enjoy, and you spend your time doing that, and then after a while, as with almost all games that you play a lot, it becomes automatic, and you're not really thinking too hard about the stuff that you're doing. But Eve has this way of weaving its own stories in through all of this that just makes it really kind of like so much more entertaining and so much more gripping, because you just don't get this kind of, just like the events you just described, of like the levels of stress involved in putting up one of those structures in Provi, of actually like moving a station egg around, or just like the crazy dude with his
Yeah, the
ever so
confidence,
confident, yeah, the confident guy. Like it's just you don't get that. You don't get that if you play a game of Rocket League or Counter-Strike or something. It's like it's just you don't get this level of story, and even in other MMOs, like nothing really quite comes close. It really is
It's all
impressive.
it's all as everyone who plays rightly knows, it's all down to what that person at the time wants to do. It's unique in that sense. It's amazing. Hopefully, in a year's time, I'll have more stories. But at the moment, they're all fairly old to me. They've all been 5 years ago now. So
Let me
not
segue
longer.
us.
Yeah.
Let me segue us into the next segment, and then I'm sure this will bring up more stories, and we will stop to listen to them. But let's talk a little bit about the most recent structure changes.
Was this quantum cores?
Quantum cores. So,
Okay.
on the dev blog, if you guys are looking at it, there's this really handy flowchart. I hate flowcharts, but this is a really handy flowchart if you're good at reading flowcharts and you like flowcharts. So here's how I understand this to work now. You build or buy a citadel. You go and you plop that citadel down for its initial 15-minute anchoring timer. Then it goes into its 24-hour timer. And then it comes out into its second 15-minute anchoring timer, right? Or its repair timer, rather. And then at the end of that timer, you have to install what's called a quantum core in order for the citadel to be fully operational. If you don't do that, I'm sorry. You have to install that before the 15-minute repair timer. So basically, first anchoring timer, 24-hour invulnerability window, and then before it goes into its repair cycle, you have to install a quantum core into the Citadel. And each Citadel has a specific quantum core for it that corresponds to it. And they all have different prices, and they all have different, well, they don't all have different sizes, but they have different sizes per the size of the Citadel, right? So I'll just go over them real quick. An Astrahus, which costs about 800 mil at the time of this, has a quantum core cost of 600 mil. So that gives you 1.4 bill roughly in the cost.
It's not far off doubling the cost then.
It's quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So an Athanor, which I am not sure what an Athanor, I think an Athanor costs probably around 700, maybe 800 mil. That's got a quantum core cost of 700 mil. So right there about doubles it probably. Rataru, which cost about 500 mil at the time of this, has a quantum core cost of 800 mil. So the smallest of the three structures, the cheapest of the three structures, has the highest cost for the quantum core, which is interesting because when we flip down next to large structures, so Fortizar, Tatara, and Asbel, right?
Yeah.
Let me look up what a Fortizar costs at the time of this. Fortizar costs at the time of this roughly around 9 bill, depending on where you buy it and when you buy it, right? The cost, the quantum core cost for a fort is 4 bill. Tatara,
so adding like 50% on to the price there, something like that.
Yeah, for the Fortizar. Tatara,
yeah,
at the time of this, cost about 6 bill, and the quantum core cost for that is 3.5. Asbel, yeah, Asbel, we're looking at 3.5, maybe 4 bill. Quantum core cost.
So that's about the same.
Yeah, about the same. 3 bill right there.
It's about doubling the price. Okay.
Keepstar. Oh god, how much does a Keepstar cost now? Probably 200 bill still, right?
I don't buy a lot of Keepstars, so I'm not in the loop on this.
Well, I feel like you should buy some more. I don't even see one on Eve Marketer, so I can't tell you. I'm not in game right now. Tom, are you in game?
I am, but not in any. Oh, I probably could.
How much did your last Keepstar cost, Tom?
Yeah, tell me how much last Keepstar cost.
Aren't they about 40 bill, 50 bill?
I think they still cost about like 200 bill or something like that. Right, and they've got a quantum core cost.
Well,
that's
a huge variance. Okay,
that is quite a large variance.
Yeah.
Basically, Keepstars are expensive. Like that's what we're getting at, right?
Yes.
Keepstars are expensive.
It turns out we don't buy a lot of Keepstars, but
now they're 30 bill more expensive.
Sodio costs, and I must be wrong on the Keepstar cost, but a Sodio costs 24 bill. The quantum core cost is 10 bill.
All right. I'm assuming these are roughly priced to be between 50 to 100% of what the structure costs. That seems to be the ballpark they've gone for.
Right. So here's the next measurement. The next metric is their volume, the size of these cores. So for all the small structures, so Astrahos, Athanor, Rataru, 500 M3. So very small, you can fit it in, a T1 industrial or whatever, right? For the next step up, for the large,
smaller than that possibly.
Large structures, you're looking at 50,000 M3. So a DST, right? All right. That's the fleet hangar on a DST right there. So that's a full DST taken up just for the quantum core. For the Keepstar and Satio, you're looking at 250,000 M3.
Is that a jump freighter? Is that a freighter?
Jump freighter. Yeah, I think jump freighter is what, 300,000. So, yeah.
Oh, so this is what they were talking about. So that means that a Keepstar in anything below a C4 is now impossible.
Yeah.
Right, so this was
you can't get the thing in there, can you?
Nope.
So, as far as I know, Goran Clade is the only group that still has a Keepstar in wormhole space, period. And their Keepstar is
the only one?
I think it's the only one left in J space. Everyone either took theirs down or it got blown up. Before Goran Clade, I think Inner Hell had the second to last Keepstar, and they blew their own up. They
blew their own up.
Yeah,
still going out with style.
Exactly. I love it. So I think Goran Clade lives in a C2, and you cannot fit a ship that has a cargo capacity of 250,000 M3 into a C2. There is no connection that will give you a large enough connection to that naturally
Yeah.
that you could fit that in there. So come January 2021, unless CCP figures something out, which on Reddit they said that they're going to look at trying to help them out. Come January 2021, when it's required for all existing structures to have this quantum core, Gore and Clade might be shit out of luck.
Okay.
They may have a keep star that they can no longer dock in.
Yes, they may, which would be hilarious. And if I was them, honestly, I would just leave it up there because it'd just be funny. But I mean, it obviously it doesn't hugely affect the vast majority of the people that live in wormholes. If there's just one group that has one,
right? It does work in C5, C6, right? So you can still dock in there. But realistically, keep star, other than maybe the benefit of extra HP and maybe services, doesn't really add much benefit in wormhole space.
So
no, I would say that's not a huge deal.
In this dev blog, CCP specifically points out that part of this change is to combat structure spam, which I fully support. I'm great with combating structure spam. Me and you dealt with the cancer that was Simple Farmers in Catch for a very long time, where they just spammed low power Rotarus all day long.
Oh yeah, just hundreds of the things.
That was so cancerous. And the same when you look at groups like Goonswarm or Test or Horde, where they have Fortizars and even faction forts and even keep stars in like every system in their region. It's like...
Yeah, I think Delve is almost a keep star, if not more than one keep star per system, as far as I could tell. It's very rare that you don't see one.
But the thing is, I don't think you're not really going to combat it, though, because they're essentially pointing to these kind of large blocks, right? I mean, I guess you'd be kind of making it harder for them to online the structure in the first place.
Well,
but these big groups are going to have the ability to pay for this, right?
Well, according to like my sources, goons are already starting to take down the Fortizars that they have that are deemed sort of like unnecessary and extra. They're starting to take down a lot of.
Is that because of this dev blog, or is that because there's quite a big war coming to Delve?
That is hard to tell.
Yeah,
they don't want those Fortizars anyway.
Yeah, right.
They need to dock up those faction Fortizars.
Right.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. They have a lot of ISK, but even when you consider that, the total cost of having to put one of these in all at one time, like all their existing structures are going to have one of these, or they'll not be dockable and eventually will go low power and then abandoned. So the initial cost on something like this is, it's not an overtime thing. They can't just, do it, a little bit at a time here and there like they've spammed structures so far. They're going to have to put these all in, before January if they want to keep all their structures that they currently have. I think that they're hesitant to do that, especially with the war.
Honestly, if I were them, I would wait anyway. Like it just wouldn't be a smart investment right now. You got to see kind of what the next few months are going to bring for the goons and the Imperium. For the game in general, though, like I think it's a much needed change. Like let's make these things less proliferated. Let's just tidy up my overview a little bit. Like it is nuts going through some of these high-sec systems these days, and just the sheer numbers of these structures that are there. I mean, I know with some of the recent changes, a lot of them have been getting thinned out, but if it's still slows down the just endless spam of them as a defensive tactic, I think it's a great idea.
I mean, how many structures do you think exist, let's say in high sec right now, that are just never used? Someone
really.
Yeah.
I think they're probably used for research or production, but that's it. Like they're not used for docking or marketing or whatever.
How many of them in nullsec right now do you think exist strictly as sort of an eviction defense, where they have all these structures in one system? They have like 10 structures per system, all a bunch of Astrohuses, 2 Fortizars or whatever. They don't actually use the services that are in these things. They just have clone bays there to keep them online. And they're there because it would be really difficult to evict someone with that many structures in that system.
Yeah, I mean, there is actually another benefit to this this dev blog. I mean, if you look at it this way, you're guaranteed a 600 mil payout every Astra house you kill.
Yeah.
Every Fortizar you kill, 4 bill. I mean, that's pretty good. Like for
that's
eviction,
really good.
From a wormholer's point of view, for evictions, you're guaranteed 4 bill base.
Right. That's something that doesn't exist in nullsec right now. You know, a full powered structure, you go to bash it, you get nothing for it. There were,
But you
20
get the
titans in
modules,
that.
don't you?
There were 20, yeah, you get like whatever modules drop maybe. You get the
A bit of
salvage.
salvage.
There were
Yeah.
20 titans in that keep star, you got nothing out of it. You got like maybe 100 mil worth of stuff because it didn't, the loot fairy said no. But now you go bash a Fortizar, you bash a keep star, that's 30 bill. You know? That's something to kick your SRP. Uh, that SRP is your ships that you may have lost trying to kill that keep star or that Fortizar or something.
Honestly,
like
Something.
that's an excellent point. Yeah, it is really it's great that it's being overly incentivized as well.
Yeah.
I think
All
I
these
think
things.
I'm still conflicted at the necessity of this, but I can definitely see the benefit of it.
Why are you conflicted?
I don't know. I've been playing this game a while, and every time they kind of
There's
every
always
time they
some
kind of go,
unintended coincident, like
well, yeah,
consequences,
pretty much,
isn't it?
right?
You
Like
know?
every time they come out and say, "Oh, we're trying to do this to solve this problem," it doesn't solve it. It just makes it more annoying.
Isn't that
Do you,
like
do you-
the nature of a sandbox MMO though, where it's like it's constantly needs balance changes. It constantly needs maintenance to
Oh
make sure
yeah,
it
yeah,
stays
yeah,
balanced.
definitely.
I think
But
the problem at
like,
the moment though is that there is literally no risk involved with putting a Ritaru up or putting another Athenor up and these sort of things. There is no. The only risk is the station, right? The Citadel.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
and
if
then
you're
if you
spamming them, if you're spamming them, there's no negative. You know, if there's an issue with nullsec spamming, make it so they have to. I don't know. There's a limit to how many they can put in a system or something like
yeah, I
that.
was going to say limiting the numbers in the system would be a way of getting around that. They used to be like linked to moons and stuff, so it's
I
like the
mean,
number of moons
you
would
only used to
determine
be
how
able to
many
have
structures.
you only used to be able to have one outpost in a system,
Yeah,
and that was normal. Um,
and honestly, like it raised the value of it as well because it was so much harder to do. Like you talked about it earlier, the stress levels involved, the amount of commitment needed, the time, the ISK, like all of these things,
yeah, looking back, if
just to
I had
get this outpost at the end of it was made it worth so much more.
if I only had to pay 500-600 mil for an Astra house, of course I wouldn't care so much. I'd be quite happy
Yeah,
to
you
stick around.
definitely wouldn't remember it. You wouldn't be looking at Dotland and going like, "Oh, I remember when I put that Astra house
Yeah,
up after
it's
picking it
it,
up from
it's
the market 15 minutes beforehand."
it's a POS. It's the same sort of thing. Um, I don't know. I feel like there are better ways around this than adding a kind of extra ISK sync to make it a bit more complicated.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I say, I really like the underlying idea of it. If it means we see less structures, great. If it means you are guaranteed a payout for killing a structure, great. If it makes it slightly more awkward and we get to see some hilarious guys exploding in a heron with a Astra House Upwell Quantum Core in his cargo hold, I think that would be quite fun.
yeah
That would be quite nice, actually. It'd be a nice little payout.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's optimistic skepticism, I guess. I guess is the best way of putting it. That makes absolutely no sense, but
No, no,
I'm hoping I'm
we've
hoping it
all played E
helps.
for long enough that we get
But
exactly what you're talking about.
as much as I love CCP, sometimes in their infinite wisdom they make things more complex and kind of needlessly expensive for the sake of it. Because all this is going to do is make it harder for people who actually want to set up an Astra house in wormhole space or whatever. You know, like that.
Yeah. It's difficult. It's difficult to introduce things like this that aren't a limitation on people who are doing things in a kind of in an honest and genuine way, but you also have to try to combat people who are essentially kind of exploiting the game mechanics in a way that feels stupid,
What?
where you've got like 200 fucking Astra houses being dropped into a system just to be a pain in the ass.
Why not make it so you got to entosis the thing when it comes online instead, or make it so you got to make some sort of interaction with it for about 2 minutes when it comes online? That way you've got to defend it. You don't just have to put a module
Yeah.
in it. There's something like that, right? Where it's a bit more of a kind of interaction thing. But I don't
I,
think so.
I'm super hopeful for this. I like the idea of it. I like the idea of a guaranteed payout. I think there's going to be some really fun kill mails generated from idiots doing stupid things with expensive quantum cores in their cargo holds.
I mean, I
So,
definitely hear what
bring
you're
it on.
saying, Tom. Like I'm not discounting it. I just feel like I don't like letting perfect be the enemy of better. You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
I know what you mean, and I'm like I say, I'm curious to see how this works. I'm really curious.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, no, I would like to see this work well. I would like to see it reduced because, like, you're right, I go through high sec and it's just it's a mess.
It is interesting
it's
timing,
so
though.
unpleasant. Yeah.
It is very interesting timing. We must admit that there is a war going on, and it's the front line of it is Delve right now, which is a very fortified region of space, and fortified with large amounts of citadels that will now require quantum cores if they are to stay good, at least through January, depending on how long this war draws out. I feel like it's a very interesting change at a very interesting time, given the current climate.
I mean, yeah, but in another sense, there's always a war on somewhere. There's always something happening. You know, I don't feel like.
Yeah, I get what you're
I
saying.
certainly don't feel
your
like a vast
tinfoil hats
majority of
out,
the
yeah?
things. Yeah,
Yeah, like-
totally. I mean, it could just be CCP like specifically targeting. I mean, I personally think that it's actually CCP just hates Gorin Clade. So this is all just being introduced just to fuck their Keepstar over.
That's the
But,
story we're going to go with.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But no, I'm not sure, and I especially think like of all of the coalitions in the game, the Imperium have the least amount of worries with stuff like this. You know, the generation of ISK that they've turned out on the Mer is always very impressive. I think they won't have much trouble kind of getting the stuff in that they need to. And Delve is also a very accessible region via jump freighters and all the rest of it. So should the war go on that long, which I kind of expect it will do, I would certainly expect to see them all properly sorted out, or at least the ones they want to keep. But yeah, I mean, it's all fucking speculation at this point, because who knows what will be the state of nullsec in the next few months. Hopefully more interesting.
So I want to touch on something that I don't know that any of us have even experienced yet: the metaliminal storms in nullsec. Have you guys? I mean, I know you probably haven't, Varg, but Tom, have you seen any of these?
Nope, I don't really go out to nullsec as often as. No.
Yeah, I haven't even
I
seen
don't think any of us have.
Oh, it's terrible. It's just a bunch of wormholers talking about stuff that doesn't happen in wormholes.
I was
Doesn't
super
affect
on.
them.
I was super on board with this, though. I thought it was a pretty cool idea. And then, so for those of you who don't know, metaliminal storms are part of the Triglavian. I don't know what you call it. The Triglavian invasion. Yeah, I guess. So basically, what it is it's something similar to a wormhole effect, but it doesn't stay stagnant in one system. It moves, and it affects. Without reading you guys the entire dev blog post, it affects like the system that it's central to, and like one system over from that in like a limited form, I think. Like, so there's strong and there's weak storms, and I'll just give you an example of like one of them here. Let's see. Strong metaliminal plasma firestorm, minus 25% thermal resists, plus 25% armor hit points, plus 50% weapon damage, minus 50% turret drone tracking speed, plus 50% missile fighter explosion radius, which is a nerf to missile precision, and it spawns Triglavian combat sites. So in the system where the strong metaliminal plasma firestorm would be, those effects would be present in that system.
Like a wormhole system effect, essentially.
Exactly.
That sort of thing. Yeah.
And from what I understand, the system that touches that, every system that touches that system directly, then gets a weak metaliminal plasma firestorm effect, which is
just the same thing with like slightly reduced effects.
Exactly.
So it's a sort of, it kind of bleeds over.
Another example is strong metaliminal exotic matter storm, 25% negative kinetic resists, plus 50% bonus to scan res, minus 25% mining laser cycle time, 100% increase to warp speed, minus 25% to local armor and shield rep cycle time, so it's a buff, and spawns extra ore anoms. So these were all good things, and then there were other ones that I'm not gonna go through all of them, but actually, I'll just go through this. It's only two more.
No, you don't have to go through them all.
It's fine. We get the idea.
But it's cool.
No.
People can read it if they want, but so it's like weather. It's like a fucking weather system, basically. Yeah, it's Eve weather.
Where do you live? Yeah. Where do you live? When you go out in the rain and go, oh, my kinetic resist feels stronger.
Yeah, that's
All right, maybe that's not the best
No, it's
comparison.
it's a terrible comparison.
that's HiSec. He lives in HiSec. That's where he lives.
It's called a storm.
He's a spy for a HiSec mining corporation.
I mean,
That's where he
if
is.
that
Shh,
happened
don't
in
give it
the
away.
UK, we wouldn't complain about the weather so much.
So
I'm sure we would.
Yeah, we probably would actually. Only a kinetic buff today.
Oh, it's a bit virus coherency out here.
Ugh.
So there was one bonus that was a bonus to scram and point range. I think it was like 100% bonus to scram and point range, which I was like, yeah. And the same day they posted the dev blog, after they got feedback from that, they changed that to a bonus to capacitor capacity. And I was like, you take the fun things and you just wreck them, Fozzie. You just wreck them. Like, why?
Well,
You took my
actually
joy.
hear you hitting the desk as you were saying that.
I'm sorry. You took my joy and it turned to ash in my mouth. I was so excited.
That would be way more interesting than just these kind of like. Don't get me wrong,
Right?
the buffs are cool, right? But like, I would like to see a web bonus, a scram bonus. It would make things so much more interesting.
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean,
It's weird
the
in some
rate,
ways
the rate,
they've not gone far enough.
the force
Someday-
recons and T3s would be cancer, but like it'd be
I was
hilarious.
just thinking, like, can you imagine a Lachesis in
Yeah.
that? It would be just
I mean,
so
with a
horrific.
web bonus, can you imagine a Recon 5
I'm
rapier
just
with
gonna
10 Navy
just gonna
webs
web you at 250, basically.
So let me
Just-
tell
just
you.
web and point you at 250 kilometers.
Let me tell you what the rest of the bonuses were for just that one. 25% negative explosive resist, plus 25% shield hit points, minus 90% remote shield and armor rep amount. So let's say you're going for a self rep Ishtar, right? He's fucked. Plus 25%. Okay, that was plus 25%
Yeah.
point. Now it's plus 25% capacitor capacity, I'm pretty sure. Minus 25% signature radius. I'm sorry, interceptors say what? Like imagine Scepters 5 in that with another sig radius bonus.
You'd never hit me. You'd never
Yeah.
hit me. It'd be ridiculous.
Exactly. I was all excited about that. My malediction was fully erect, and then CCP Fozzie just comes in. One day we're
Those
gonna
are
have
words I
Fozzie.
never thought I'd hear.
One day we're gonna have Fozzie on the show, and I'm gonna ask him why he took my joy and smashed it in the ground. God dang it.
Don't ask him that. That's so hostile. Jesus.
Okay, I'll ask him.
That should be your,
Just don't
that should be
make a
your
video.
opening
Okay,
question.
I guess I should look at this. I should look at this objectively and say that the changes overall, I guess, are a good thing, but still.
I think this is really fun. Like, I actually think this is a really cool system. I would, if anything, make the regions that it affects larger. Like, you know, spread it out a little bit so it's like a consistent thing over an
Well,
area.
you could do the start like they actually have regions, don't they? It could be based on that.
Oh yeah, that could be really cool. Like,
But then-
or just even constellation based or something. That would
That's
be
it, the
awesome.
constellation
Yeah.
base, right? That's what I mean.
So it's
Yeah.
already live apparently, but since all three of us live in wormholes, none of us have seen it. Even though I enjoy going to nullsec to kill things.
We'll have to get someone on who's fought in one of these and
Yeah.
get some feedback on this. I think we'll have to come back around to that one.
Wait, do you get
Do we-
killed on your roams down to nullsec?
Have we been known to kill things?
Have you? Or I normally see them come back in pods. I've been on them, and every time I go there, I come back in a pod.
You're a funny guest, Tom.
That's
You're so
just
hilarious.
consistency.
You're like the most hilarious guy
I'm the
I've
funniest
ever
guest
had
that
on the
you've had, mate.
podcast. Funniest guy
that's
I've
a
ever
good
had on the
review.
podcast.
Hey, you heard it here first, guys.
I'll have you know, I kill more things than I lose.
Oh god, don't trigger anyone. Come on.
Too late.
One last thing that I want to talk about if we have time. We have time, Vargas?
Yeah.
We have time.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. One last thing I want to talk about was late July, Eve put out a dev blog about the Eve security update. And I am all about combating the botting menace that is in New Eden. I hate bots, mostly
Fuck
because
bots, man.
they deny me content where I feel like I'm performing at my best. My D-scan is on point. I find the thing in like 3 seconds and I still can't get to it because local is not delayed. You know, I still think it's ridiculous that the local scanning mechanism on the gates can tell you who I am when my ship hasn't decloaked yet. But I digress.
Don't
bots-
digress. That would be an excellent change to be made in this game, and I know it's something we've discussed before, but like it's crazy to me that you
It would
don't at
fix
least
botting.
have that time. Yeah, it would well, if not fix it completely, it would certainly make it unbelievably harder for them. Because if I can be in my malediction, I get the 60 seconds before you break gate cloak is so long in order to just find which anomaly the guy's at.
Yep.
And I can be on that anomaly in a couple of seconds, and I can have my point and my micro warp heated. I could just hit him immediately, and he's not going anywhere. He will not align in time. And it's just like the difference that makes, that 20 to 30 seconds that they get as you're descanning him down when you first pop into the system. If they remove that, I mean, yes, a lot of innocent, legitimate ratters would die, and that would be a great thing. We can all agree.
That's
it wouldn't.
that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
But that's the
Yes.
thing. Like, I think people kind of complain, go, "Oh, but what about the people who aren't botting?" It's like, well, it's nullsec. It's not meant to be safe. Like, if
Yeah.
you want it to be safe, you should have a standing fleet up and scouts.
People say that all
Just
the time,
like
that
if-
high sec is more dangerous than null sec, and sometimes I agree.
I don't like high sec; it scares me. But
Oh, it's right. It's neutrals everywhere, man. It's
it's
terrifying.
so many people. But I genuinely think the delayed local would be the best option. That, and were they not talking about adding in essentially a dead space area in space, which would have all the ISK in it?
Oh, you're talking
Yeah,
about
the
you're
ESS changes.
Yeah, the ESSs. That's going to come soon, and I think that we will see. I think it's going to be a positive change for what we're talking about. I don't know. I don't know enough about the mechanic, even though that it's been explained to me several times what the change is going to be, or like talked about it. We've even talked about it. I think we talked a little bit about it to CCP Aurora when she was on the podcast. I don't know enough about it though to understand how exactly, like, it'll spread people out, but I don't know how that will necessarily combat.
Let's wait
spotting.
and see. I think let's wait and see till that one gets deployed. See what the effect is. If we suddenly find that we're able to catch a bunch of guys or at least steal their money, I'm sure that will make a big difference. And really, the more blocks you can put between botting programs being able to perform these simple tasks that are required in order to make money in the game, the better. Like, complicate the systems that through which ISKs flows, increase the amount of risk required to do it. Like, you can make it so that you make tons more ISK doing, but it just requires more risk and it requires more player interaction. I think that would be a much better way to go. So it's like you're still earning the same money as you would do having a bot spinning out there all day long, but you can do that in a couple of hours, just accepting the fact that sometimes you're going to die and lose everything. And, that's just the way the game works. And I feel like that everybody wins then. It's less time and effort being committed. It's harder for the bots to do it. So, yeah, bring it on, CTP. Let's go. Let's really ramp this up.
I just want to talk some metrics real quick because these numbers interest me. I like these numbers.
Sure.
So one of the recent changes they say is an automatic reply sent to all users whose in-game bot reports led to CCP taking action. So basically, if CCP takes action against a bot that you reported, you get an in-game reply that says, like, hey, by the way, you were right.
Nice.
Since January 1st, 2020, 107,000 reports have been sent from 13,600 EVE accounts. 27,000 of these reports resulted in permanent bans against a total of 4,600 EVE accounts. 27,000 reports resulted in a permanent ban of 4,600 EVE accounts since January to July. So 7 months. That's a lot.
I mean,
That's a
the
lot
math
of
works
bots.
out there. Some of them are running more than one bot, but it sounds like a lot of them are just running one.
Well,
I guess there's going to be guys with 8.
Well, I mean, like, that's just who knows how many of those 27,000 reports were multiple reports against the same account. But I just think that 4,600 accounts, that is a lot of botting. And here's a quick recap of how bots are handled as of the end of July this year. Punishment is never limited to the offending account. If successfully verified, all accounts that belong to the offender are penalized. Alpha accounts are permanently banned on the first offense. Abusing alphas is a serious issue which CCP is committed to tackling. Generally, Omega accounts may receive a 3-day suspension on first offense and a permanent ban on the second offense. And some bots in Omega are permanently banned on the first offense due to the method used to manipulate the client. That's
that's fair. If like
That
you're
makes
really,
sense.
yeah.
And also, sometimes, like the one thing that worries me about these bans is getting false positives. You know, somebody who's really good at warping in, warping out. I do wonder how they check it, but the less botting, the better, really, because it's not fun. You roam around, you go, oh, I found 2 Ishtars, and by the
Yeah.
time you warp to them, they're already at the
oh, it's
server
so
end.
depressing.
It's
The amount of times.
and it's
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. If they've legitimately warped away in that time, brilliant, well done.
Someone was paying
But
attention, which they should be.
yeah, yeah. And oftentimes I don't believe it. I still 100% agree that a delayed local should be a thing.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's when it's every system you jump into
Yeah.
in certain regions, and there are regions which are like this. I know I read a very good and well written Reddit post not that long ago about Fraternity having a massive botting issue, and it's
Yes, it felt
absolutely
like.
true. Like
But
having gone through their space, like you walk you jump into space. There's a couple of ships, couple of Ishtars on D-scan, and I can remember getting a guy with 50, 52 seconds left on my gate cloak. It was that fast. My range was set right. I just checked the closest to Nom. He was there. I was just like hit warp go. And by the time I hit grid, which kind of been like maybe 30 seconds maximum after I entered local, he was already gone. And it's just like when it happens in every single system in an entire region, it stops feeling like there's any kind of human interaction. And it really seems like it's all fucking bots.
so you
I
were
have
saying fraternity. You were saying fraternity though, and the funny thing with fraternity is yeah, they have a botting problem, but at the same time, they've got one of the quickest response fleets I think I've ever seen in Nullsec.
yeah.
You know, they genuinely have one of
Protecting
the
their
strongest.
investment.
They have one of the strongest response fleets, and the irony there is that actually that would probably alleviate any issues you'd have from removing the the local or whatever, however you decide to do it.
Hmm.
I've got tackle on an Ishtar the other day, and I had to break tackle. I couldn't hold it down. The dude was active at the keyboard. He was shit talking me in local, and I felt
Good.
less bad about losing tackle and not killing that Ishtar than I have felt about going into a system and seeing 6 Ishtars on scan and not getting a single one of them, and they all warp to a POS. It's like I know those are bots, and there's nothing I can do about that, and that feels shitty. I hate that. I'm okay with like getting tackle on someone, and not being able to hold it because he's at the he's at the wheel and he's at a ship that's good at breaking off tackle or screening tackle from him, and he's good at doing that. I feel okay about that. I'm okay with losing that fight. I'm not okay with never getting the fight at all because of bots. Hate it.
Yeah, well, I think we can all agree, fuck bots. But yeah, hopefully going forward,
In some
CTP
nation.
finds better ways to tackle it and
In some nations,
generally kind of
fuck bots.
yeah, yeah, pretty
Basically,
much.
the too long didn't listen, guys. Fuck bots. That's it.
Yeah.
Done.
So
mic drop.
I think we can wrap it up here, unless you guys have something else you want to talk about, which is perfectly okay with me.
No, I think we're good. I did actually go back and have a look through Tom's very early losses, which are in classic
God.
format.
Oh,
as
yes.
many of them, your delightful very first loss in
Linky.
Cooster, no less, the
Linky.
system that you talked about. Bear with me, I will link it. And yes, in your glorious Atron,
The
enough
mighty
respect for the
Atron.
Atron, of course. Yeah, indeed, with your civilian shield booster and small armor repairer. Not just one small armor repairer, but 2 small armor repairers. So you were clearly you were just like, I'm going to tank things. That was your initial thought. It would appear.
And,
You were
and
like, I will
thermal as well,
survive all of
apparently.
this. Yep. You apparently were patching that well-known thermal hole in the Atron.
I find it interesting
Brilliant.
that you have about 170 rounds of antimatter, small antimatter for your single electron blaster. But Tom, you forgot to bring the ammo for your 75mm Gatling Railtech 1. What the hell, man?
No, there's 2 ammos there, man. What you? They use the
no,
same ammo.
It's the same ammo.
I like
to be fair,
I like how who was trying to make me look bad, and now he looks like the dickhead.
What?
they both use antimatter. They all use antimatter.
It's a blaster.
Oh, it's rail.
They
I'm so
both use-
sorry.
yeah.
I'm so sorry. You're right. I
Well, see, what you've actually done is
fuck.
completely missed what the true
Fuck.
joy of this first loss is that Tom O'Neill, your very first death in EVE Online was to a pleasure hub.
Yep. It was not pleasurable.
You,
I think-
you
you
got,
know what, I
you got
think genuinely
murdered by a brothel.
That's the one that explodes and causes damage, and they tell you to get
It
away
is.
from it. And I was like,
It
I'm
is
going to go
indeed.
close to it.
I mean, to be fair, many a men have lost their
died
lives
doing
to a
what he
brothel.
loved.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Died doing what he loved.
Many a men have lost their lives to a brothel, you know?
I will upvote the press F to pay respect button.
I think they wrote a song about that.
Indeed. All right. Anyway, wrap us up.
Yeah, that's been episode 11, true episode 11 of Primary Target. Thank you all for listening. I'd like to thank my co-host Vargren and our special guest Tom O'Neill. Thank you for being on the show very much.
Thank you for having me.
Make sure you guys tune in for episode 12 and fly however the fuck you want. I don't care. Bye.